Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 408. Hey, we're heading to Pennsylvania today, and we're going to visit with Jason Mears. This is a great show because it was done in his pickup truck. That was the best place he could get connection, Wi-Fi connection, and so we're doing it in his pickup truck. So that's kind of fun, and that's only happened once or twice before. So having said that, Jason's one word of advice is every time you go into the field, treat it as a learning experience. And most of all, remember why you're out there. Jason is a whitetail ambassador for Sitka Gear, and he sold a company a few years back that was in deer attractants, and he sold that to spend more time with his family and more time in a tree stand. So he's been hunting for over 25 years. Sit back, relax. Jason's got some big buck nuggets. He's got some teaching points, and most of all, he's going to share his experiences that make him a Sitka Gear whitetail ambassador. Welcome. This is Bruce Hutchin, and I'm heading out to Southwest PA today. I'm going to connect with Jason Mears. Now, Jason is on the Sitka Gear staff. He's a whitetail ambassador. Jason, welcome to the show.
Bruce, glad to be on.
Hey, man, let's tell a little bit about Jason Mears. And I know you've done a lot of things in the industry already, so let's give a short bio and let the people know who you are and kind of what you do.
Yeah, like you said, I'm from Southwest. I've been bow hunting for about 25 years. Bow hunting and spring turkey hunting are really my passions. I love to hunt. I love to be outdoors. Been doing stuff in the industry for a while. Used to be a big waterfowl hunter, but I got out of that. Did some staff work for Avery Outdoors. Owned my own deer scent company for roughly 9 years. Just got out of that about 2.5 years ago. And now I'm doing the thing with Sitka Gear. So it's been great. I love hunting. Like I said, love talking to people about hunting, and just, it's something that I think about every day. So, it's a great thing to be a part of. I'm grateful that I can be.
Hey, thanks for that. And folks, I'm going to break down the show for you. We're going to talk about Sitka Gear, definitely. We're going to talk about hunting mature pressured bucks, and we're going to talk about the deer attractant industry, if you will. And so let's start off with the deer attractant industry. And you owned the company for a few years, sold it. But in the warm-up, we talked about the bans going on in some places. And let's get your 2 cents about it.
Yeah, that is something that you see a lot anymore with CWD popping up all over the place. There's a lot of states that are actually considering banning deer urines. My 2 cents is, and I had this conversation many, many times with hunters at shows. I had this conversation many times with the deer farm that I worked with, and there's really no hard proven scientific evidence that actually shows that CWD is spread through deer urine. It's just not out there. It's the evidence that they have that is there can be very debated. So my personal opinion is, do your due diligence before you go banning deer urine, in my opinion. Another thing I wanted to mention is all of these deer farms, not all of them, but all of the larger deer farms that the scent companies out there in the industry use are accredited by the Department of Agriculture, and all their deer are tested for CWD. They're tested for other types of diseases. So, you know, the whole issue, I can see both sides of it. I do get it, but at the same time, I think that we need to do our homework before we go banning deer urines. And if you do that, you're talking about putting a lot of people out of work. You're talking about eliminating millions of dollars in tax revenue that's generated every year for these states. So I think we need to do our homework before we go ahead and just say, hey, let's ban everything.
And one thing, I've got a friend, Brian Sparks, up at Nelson Creek in Wisconsin, and he's crafted up a synthetic deer urine. Your take on that?
That stuff does work. I don't think it's quite as effective as a natural deer urine, in my opinion. I think you're going to see a lot of companies go that route, mainly because of the fear of the ban. They want to stay in business, so they're going to come out with some type of synthetic that if they do get hit with a ban, they're still able to stay in business and sell a product. Like I said, I don't think it's quite as effective, but it does work.
And thanks for that. Let's break down what a buck does when they scent checking, because he's checking for the pheromones coming off the doe, right? Because her eggs are dropped in the estrus and she's in heat, basically. And so, that's what I know about it. Kind of school me a little bit about, really the scientific reasons why we're using doe estrus urine during the rut.
I'll be 100% honest with you, Bruce. I'm not and this is coming from a guy that used to own a deer scent company. I'm not a huge believer in doe estrus urine. My personal belief is that you're not going to capture everything that's going on within that doe in its urine. There's a lot of other natural body occurrences that are going on with that doe that the animals can sense that you're not going to actually capture in the urine. I'm a firm believer of using a buck urine and not dominant buck urine. The product that we used to sell was made from a immature buck, a 1.5-year-old buck, and we would add pheromones to that urine. And what you're really trying to simulate there is an immature buck coming into the dominant buck in your area. You want to paint that picture that you have this immature buck coming in, and you want to raise the aggressiveness of that mature buck in your area. Now that mature buck might only be 3.5 years old, but he's still that mature buck. So he's gonna be walking around. He's gonna smell that immature buck urine, and he's gonna think, hey, there's some young punk on my block. I've had a lot more success over the years using an immature buck urine than I've ever had using a doe estrus.
Okay, so I go into the big box store, I go someplace and say, I want a 2.5-year-old deer pee. How do I get that?
I'm not finding it. Most of the companies out there are selling a dominant buck urine, and there's this misconception that, big buck urine draws big bucks, and that's, that's not really the case. So I know in my personal opinion, the dominant buck urine that you're getting out of the store is probably collected from a deer that's 6.5, 7 years old. Here in Western PA, good luck finding a deer that old. If I put that out there, the first buck that comes in, he's probably going to hightail it out of there because he's going to be afraid that he's going to get his butt kicked. That's why I'm a firm believer using the immature buck urine. That way, you give that dominant buck in your area. He's going to come in and he thinks that he's going to kick the crap out of somebody. You know what I mean? He can sense that immature buck in the area. So that's my 2 cents on deer urines. I'm not saying I don't use doe estrus. I do, but I always use them in conjunction with the immature buck urine. So basically, what I'm trying to portray is a doe with an immature buck. In my opinion, it's all about illusion and painting that picture of something going on, and that mature buck in your area his territory. The name of the game is to fool them, right? So, that's what I've always done. That's what's worked well for me, and I've had a lot of, back when I had the company, I had a lot of customers be successful doing that same type of thing.
Okay, folks, some takeaways, and Jason just shared some really good information. One, become an immature buck. Why? Because the dominant buck, the guy that you're in, that shadow or fake buck, he's in his home range. Two, you throw in some estrus urine, and then the dominant buck thinks there's a lady that might be ready to be bred. There's a youngster in the bunch, so now he's gonna look that kid up. So that's how I sense it, and you're creating an illusion. I like how you said that because it is smoke and mirrors, folks. It's a magician's game because you and I know there's no other buck there, but he doesn't because of the scent, because of all the natural chemicals that are in that scent. So is that my takeaway about right, Jason?
You nailed it. That's exactly what I was trying to get across. If you haven't tried that, give it a shot. I think you'd be pretty surprised and happy with the results that you'll probably get. But my personal opinion, I will not use dominant buck urine.
Well, that sounds like we got an ebook opportunity coming up, and folks, that'll if Jason and I get together, maybe we can spin off an ebook in time for August. I just had to throw that in there.
Don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of hunters out there that have killed giant bucks on dominant buck urine, but on a like I said, on a normal day here in southwestern PA, I would feel a lot more comfortable putting out that immature buck urine than I would something from a 7-year-old buck on a farm that weighs 350 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I get that. And folks, most of you know that PA has over 1 million hunters, and they got a lot of whitetails, but unfortunately, they never get past 3.5 years old. So a mature buck, that you might think 4.5, 5.5, the majority of Pennsylvania whitetail hunters ain't never going to see him. Is that true or false?
Yeah, and like you said, we got anywhere I think now between 750,000 and 1 million deer hunters. The average buck size here in PA is 100 to 120 inches probably. 3.5 year old buck is a big buck to everybody, a lot of guys here in PA. So, personally, I'm happy with a 3.5 year old buck here in Pennsylvania. It's just, they don't get the opportunity to get that big. Now we are getting some real giants in places, especially in the northern counties here in the state, the big woods where there's a lot more ground, where the hunter numbers over the past decade have really dropped because of the deer numbers they've dropped. So they're really taking some hammer bucks up there. Our bucks have been getting better. I think it's been a learning curve. I think people are starting to realize, let them grow, let them get a little bit bigger. But I would feel comfortable saying that probably the average buck taken here in Pennsylvania is 2.5 years old, with a decent amount of performance.
And the reason I bring that up, because everybody, if I'm in the right county in Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky's growing some big bucks. I know out east in Colorado we got some huge bucks. I mean, there's a lot of mature bucks being taken because guys are getting better at it. Guys and gals are getting a heck of a lot better at it, in my opinion. Because I know I shoot does every year, but I go years. I don't punch my buck, bow tag. I don't, because I don't see Mr. Wonderful. I don't see the buck with character, and that's what I'm looking for. And when you hunt just in different states, what do you look for yourself when you're out there, in the tree stand, scouting and building a hit list?
As far as bucks go,
Right.
I'm a big proponent of trail cameras. So I run a ton of trail cameras. I hunt here in PA and in Ohio. I'm looking for anything that's 3.5 or bigger. Um, as far as your question, was that more related to, is what I'm looking for in the deer, or what I'm looking for as far as terrain and things like that?
No, basically in the deer, when you frame the deer that you want to take, where does he fall into age wise and horn wise and body size?
3.5 years old, and any 120 and up is what I'm really after. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not shooting giant bucks here in southwestern PA. But anything at 120 and above is what I'm really like to get after.
Okay, and then you go to Ohio. Now they got, I mean, Mark Hammer came to the Hammer Buck. You mentioned Hammer Buck. I mean, that's a gorgeous deer, just a gorgeous buck.
Yeah.
Is Are you looking for 4.5 year old and 150 plus there?
I'll be honest with you, Ohio's it's a little bit different as well. Eastern Ohio, you're not getting the quantity of monster bucks that you're going to get in South Central and Central Ohio. There's still a lot of big bucks there, but again, I've been hunting Ohio since 2004, I believe, and our average deer again is 3.5 years old. We have taken a couple 4.5s, and I think maybe one 5.5 year old out there. But again, average is 3.5. I think what I'm seeing in Ohio now is, 10 years ago, you didn't hear a lot of people in PA here and elsewhere talking about Ohio much. And then Ohio's becoming the new Illinois slowly, everybody wants to go to Ohio and shoot a big buck. I've seen in Eastern Ohio, I've seen our deer numbers drop. I've seen the quality of bucks go down. And what's really going on is there's a lot of people coming into the area, a lot of leases popping up, a lot more new hunters. There's a lot of people from PA traveling over into Ohio. I mean, where I hunt in Ohio, I can be there in an hour and 20 minutes. So at this end of the state, there's a lot of people heading over there. There's a lot of public land over there. One place in particular has like 14,000 acres that you can go
Whoa.
hunt over there. So yeah, it's there's Ohio has changed greatly in the past decade, in my opinion, at least where I'm at.
And thanks for that insight because we got fooled one by what we read, we see on social media or on a outdoor channel. In a hunting thing, you see this buck and go, whoa, we don't see those in our neighborhoods. I'm fortunate. Our farm, we took a 180. Garrett Shear took a 180 last year, and that's the biggest buck we've ever taken off the farm. But there's a reason for that because we're not shooting younger bucks. The biggest buck I shot was a 135, and I shot him because he was high tying, just a gorgeous deer. He was high tying. I couldn't let him walk. I just couldn't do it. But as we said before, he was 3.5 years old. He was the grandson of a 160 my buddy had taken earlier, and I dumped him, and I got him on the wall.
You got your heart pumping, didn't he?
Oh,
All matter.
oh,
All
with
matter.
high times, I was as soon as I saw his G2s and G3s, I went, "You're gonna die, bam, done." There was no discussion on that one. But that's why we hunt, just thinking back of that and hearing you talking, and then I get juiced up and go, whoa, I feel like a kid again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we all want to shoot big bucks, but I think sometimes and I catch myself doing it all the time. Sometimes I think we focus a little bit too much on the horns, and it's hard not to do. I mean, like I said, we all want to kill big bucks, but if it gets your heart pumping and you want to take that deer, go for it. Who are we to criticize people for not doing that?
Nobody. And Brenda Valentine, she was one of my early guests on the show, and she said, Bruce, it's your deer. It's your hunt. It's nobody else's. Forget about social media. Forget about the guys in the bar. Forget about the guys at work. Forget about anything. It's your hunt. If you like it, you enjoy it. If it's a doe, you know, it doesn't matter. And I've always carried that forward, and share that with people because, Brenda's kind of well known in the industry and she's killed a lot of deer and people do get trapped. And I've been there, somebody comes into the bar in Wisconsin at the little river's edge and, he goes, come on guys, you're going to see the truck. What I just put down tonight, the back of the truck. And you go, oh man. One, it gets you up in the morning because they're out there. That's for sure. But the other thing is, the competitive edge, I think. And sometimes maybe we need to set that aside. Your thoughts?
Oh, I agree. I agree. We're all out there for the same reason, and my good hunting partner out in Ohio with, it's never been about a competition with us. We're whether you shoot 115 or 140, we're as happy for each other as if it was our own. So, it this isn't it's not a sporting event where you come out with the higher score and the most points in the standings. We're out there, put meat in the freezer, enjoy ourselves in the outdoors, and hopefully get a good buck. So um, don't let it become competitive. That's because it's going to ruin it for you the minute you do.
Hey, Jason, how does somebody get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Facebook, Jason Mears. I'm on Instagram, JM3650. That's probably the best places to get a hold of me. If anybody
Great.
wants to chat with you, message, and I'll follow up as soon as I can.
Now we're going to talk about City Deer towards the end of the show, but you're an ambassador for them. So do they have their own Facebook page at City
Yeah,
Whitetail Gear?
you can go to Sika Gear on Facebook and Instagram. Give them a follow. There's some awesome stuff on there. A lot of informative videos and just awesome photos and gear information. So and they're doing a lot of good things with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, 2% for conservation. They got their fingers in a little bit of everything. So it's a great company. Definitely check them out.
Great. And while we're at that, I got to give a shout out for a couple of companies that's helping me get back in shape. One's Wilderness Athlete, Jesse Paulson, and then Fit to Hunt, Jeremy Kerber. And so, guys, here's your shout out for the day. So let's switch up. Okay, I want to know from the master how you hunt mature pressured buck. Come on, you're the one that brought it up. That's how we got here, folks. He said, "Man, I'm really good at this. Look at him squirm now."
As soon as you said master, I got squirmy. So no.
uh,
So like you said, you know, I think if you're from PA, you know a little something about hunting pressured deer. Like you said, we have 3/4 of a million to a million hunters here in Pennsylvania. Um, Particularly here in southwestern Pennsylvania, where I'm from, there's a lot of posted property, ordered property that you can hunt or get permission to. A lot of patch woods. So bumping deer or spooking deer could have a huge effect on your hunt because if you bump these deer out of these smaller woodlots and things, they might not come back for a long time. So you really got to play your cards right and hope for a little luck. But there's some things I do pretty well every year in my opinion. I'm not saying what I do is right, but the things that I do, I throw out there, and hopefully it helps somebody out there, and it helps them harvest a buck or a doe. I think sometimes these big mature does they're as hard to get as some of these mature bucks. Sometimes even harder, especially when the rut comes on.
yeah, one thing in living out in Colorado, I started elk hunting after whitetail hunting. I've been whitetail hunting since '66. But I always learned that the does, if you can fake out the doe, you got a really good chance of taking a buck. Same thing with a cow elk because the cow elk drives the herd. Now during the rut, during the bugle season, okay, the bull's in charge and he's just running and gunning and doing everything. But the whole rest of the year, that lead doe or cow is in charge of the whole herd, and the bull just kind of saltages at the end, and he comes in and out. And so folks figure out how to hunt those mature does, and that's going to make you a better mature buck hunter. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. One of the things I wanted to touch on was if you have a location that you really want to hunt during the rut, it's always been a good spot. Don't hunt it early. And the reason I say that is you don't want to take the chance of blowing some does out of there, especially in these smaller patch and woodlots, blowing those does out of there and them not being there because they're pressured and been bumped out of there a lot. So I'd like to spots like that. I like to kind of leave them, let those does just feel like they're safe in there. And we all know if the does are there, the bucks will be there eventually.
Yeah, that's true. So let's take it through a scenario. Do you own or lease some woodlots there in PA?
I own a small patch of woods that I hunt a little bit. And I have some buddies that own property that they let me hunt, and I gained some access to some other properties through permission from the landowners that I've been hunting there for a little while. So, I got spots kind of all over the place, but I personally don't own any giant tracts of land or farms. Well, and I really don't lease anything.
So let's set up the scenario. You're gonna hunt a mature buck. You get your trail cameras out, and you've seen a mature buck, a buck that you want to put on your hit list. When do you start hunting him? And that could be scouting. That's not actually in the tree stand. When do you start hunting that buck?
I had this same scenario pop up, a couple different times, and I get that buck on camera, and I'll try to get him early. Our season in here in Pennsylvania, in the zone that I'm in, comes in I think the third week of September. So I'll try to get at him maybe the first couple weeks before he realizes what's actually going on.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to gohunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com.
And then, these two cases that I'm thinking of, I didn't hunt those deer again until first week of November.
Okay, so you took an early shot at him. Now, did you use the same tree stand for the early hunt when he was on a different feed, and then switched over to another stand because of where the does were? Kind of explain how that all worked.
Okay, so the one that I'm really thinking of, the one I got and the one I didn't. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about the one that I got. I had pictures of him religiously throughout the summer. Hunting season came in. I saw him one time from stand. This was not a stand that I was planning to hunt during the rut. It was more of a as a travel corridor to a cornfield, standing corn that he was hitting, early, August, September time frame. And I saw him one time, and then it seemed like he vanished. As soon as October came in, and whenever archery season came in, he was gone. I hunted for him, I think maybe one more time the first week or two, and then I decided to just back out. And I didn't know if he was dead, but I had a feeling that he probably moved out of this smaller patch looking for more food after the corn was cut, starting to look for does, starting to mark his territory. And then I started hunting him in November, and I heard about a sighting of him, so I knew he was close. And then gun season came in, and you never know what's going to happen in Pennsylvania in gun season. So, and I had never seen him. I stopped getting trail cam pictures of him, and then at that point I knew that I was going to be hunting late season for him. And there was other bucks I was after too. So I was periodically coming back to this spot once late season came in. But it was, I believe, it was like the 2 days after gun season went out. I was sitting on my couch, and I happened to look out my window, and I caught movement in the woods, and there was 3 bucks, and he was one of them. And at that point, I knew
from your couch.
Well, I looked out my window and there he was standing in the woods behind me. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah, I was pretty excited at that point. And I knew at that point that he had moved back into his summer territory where he had spent all summer long, where I got hundreds of trail cam pictures of him, and I knew then that that's where I really needed to focus. So it was a little bit of a challenge. I thought it was going to be easier than than what it was, but I mean, I took this. It was a 3.5-year-old buck, and one of the reasons I wanted him so bad, it was the year I moved into this house where I live and the property that I have. So it was, I wanted to kill a buck on my own property so bad. So um, you know, I probably it took a lot of adjusting to get on this deer. It seemed like he knew he knew what I was going to do in advance. It seemed like sometimes, and I think that that has a lot to do with um, being pressured so much. The wood patch that he was in was fairly small. I'm saying 25 acres tops. That was surrounded by houses on almost all sides. And this deer was laying in probably in people's yards, feeding in people's yards at night, and then working his way through my property into the field at night to feed. So I saw him one time and he came out, and it wasn't light enough to shoot. I couldn't see my pin, and then I hunted that stand again and I saw him from a distance. So I kind of felt like he knew I was there, even though the wind was in my favor. I was doing everything, scent related, the right way. So I moved, and this time I got a shot at him. And it's a funny story. It was really cold that day, and I drew my bow back, and I couldn't feel my kisser because I had a real heavy face net on. Could not feel my kisser, and I just didn't feel comfortable. But I shot, and I mean that's you know bow hunting 101, you should never do that. But buck fever sometimes gets the best of you a little bit. I shot and I missed him, and I was sick about it. And I took a couple of days off and hunted it, and I saw him again. This time he got around me again. So what I started doing, and one of the things that I think is important when you're hunting small wood plots like this and really pressured deer, is to adjust and surprise them in a location that they think you're never going to be in. And that's what I did. And he came out 5:30. It was, I think it was January 26th. I had 3 days of the season left. He came out right past me, and I ended up getting him. But it took me. It was almost like a chess game between me and this deer, and it was a lot of fun. It was the latest buck I've ever killed. It was like I said, it was on my own property, so I was pretty pumped about it. But adjustment is key. You can't sit there and beat the same stand over and over and over. I'm not saying go and roam all over the place, because that's going to be counterproductive too. You're going to bump deer out. You're going to put scent out on the ground. But surprise them. If you feel like he is on you, or he just always seems to be out of range, move. Get a climbing tree stand, and surprise him in an area where he thinks that you're never going to be. I'll be 100% honest with you. The tree I shot that buck out of that night was probably, I don't know, was probably this big around. My climber was literally like this, but he never expected me to be there. Nobody in their right mind probably would have hunted this tree, but I knew it's where I needed to be, and it worked.
And folks, I want to share. There's a couple of guys, Dan Johnson from Nine Finger Chronicles and Todd Pringus from Wicked Tree Gear, and they're both run and gun fanatics. And they say the first time you hunt a stand is the best time. When they hang a stand, especially during a rut, they're not hunting; they're looking. Okay, the whole thing. They get their glasses and they're looking for bucks and seeing where they are. And they exactly what you did. They adjust and they do unconventional things, completely unconventional. They spot the buck, and then I remember what Dan told me. He said if he spots the buck in the morning, then at noontime he goes in, puts up his hang on or his climber. Well, it wouldn't be his climber. He puts up his hang on and gets the heck out of there, and doesn't hunt it till the following afternoon. So he lets it rest. So he's got time for the scent to clear out. If the rain comes through, he'll hunt that the next morning. But if it doesn't, he lets it clear through. But and Todd Pringles in Iowa, just unbelievable his run and gun techniques. And these guys have figured out, see the buck, he's not going to come to your tree stand because he already knows you're there. So you have to adapt, play the wind, sneak in, get the stand up, then hunt it once. He said you hunt it one or two times, then you're out of there because he already knows. That's how smart these mature bucks are. Jason, your thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, I would agree. And one thing I wanted to touch on is, uh, you know, things like that. Don't apply them to just whenever hunting season's in. Apply those type of things when you're scouting in the summertime and, running trail cameras. I think, people make the mistake a lot, and I've done this in the past, is you get a picture of a big mature buck on camera and you get really excited and you want to see those pictures as much as you can. And that's just a bad idea. I've got into the motion of really checking my trail cameras once a month. I'll check them once a month, no matter what I got on the camera, and I run a couple cell cameras, which are really convenient because you don't have to go into the woods. But check your cameras once a month. You don't want to be going in there every couple of days, even every week, in my opinion, because you're just adding pressure to the deer when they really don't need to be pressured. Another thing I like to do is, I like to scout and check my cameras after a rain, or even sometimes when it's raining. That way, your scent that you're adding into the woods, it's washed away. It helps minimize that odor, and you're also quieter whenever you're moving through wet vegetation and things like that. So I think that's important. I just wanted to say that make sure you're being cautious about bumping deer and not pressuring your deer, and watching your access points in and out of the property, even in the summertime, when you don't have a bow or a gun in your hand.
Some of the guys I know that are hunting our farm, and we got a rule: we don't go in the woods unless we got scent, spray down. We spray down with scent, and we got our rubber boots on. And we can have rubber boots with shorts and t-shirts, but we still have our rubber boots on. And that's, I think, one of the reasons all the things that we're doing, we're seeing larger bucks. They've always been there. And
Yeah.
we know that, but we just never could close the deal. And for the last 3 years, we saw this buck, and Garrett was able to get it. And he's been there the whole time because we've seen him on trail cameras and stuff, but we never closed the deal. And we're becoming better hunters. I know I am, since I started Whitetail Rendezvous, because I talk to guys like you and I go, oh, that's what I did wrong. Because I know one buck that I'm after. I mean, and I'll have one shot at him. He's
Yeah.
that good of a buck. I'll have one
Right.
shot, and if I screwed up, that's a whole year of planning, and I'm gonna go put my stand up. I don't know if I'm gonna do tree stand or ground blind. Just depends. I know where it's going, but I've got to get on the ground, see if I can brush it in. But I'm gonna have one shot at him. That's it. I'll have one sit. I'll get in there and I'll spend the whole day. It'll be during the rut. I'll spend the whole day, and that's my shot. Because if I don't, he's gonna smell. He's gonna know I was there. There's no question in my mind. And that's how
So
the
you
big
learn.
mature bucks are.
Time I don't care how long you've been hunting. Every time you go into the woods, there's something that you can learn. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. So you're learning from mistakes. Even if you're sitting there and you don't take an animal, there's still something that you could have learned from that hunt. So just always walk away. There's always something to take away from the hunt.
Props to you on that. Now, okay, so we know the bucks are there. We know we're going to have to adapt. You're hunting in a highly pressured area. Okay, is there any, one, two, or three other tips that you want to share with the folks right now?
One of the things that is really worked well for me over the years is go where other people won't go. If it's on a steep hill like this, you gotta walk 2 miles to get there. And if you shoot a deer, it's going to take you half a day to get it out. Go there, because chances are most guys won't. Um, you know, I can think of one property in particular that I hunt, that it's exactly what I told you. guys won't climb the hill, and I'm in fairly decent shape. And I know when I get to the top, I'm huffing and puffing pretty good, but I never see anybody on the backside, and I see deer almost every time I'm in there. Give it a thought, and one of the other things that I would suggest if you're hunting a property that has fields and cornfields, don't hunt the edges because easy access points are uh, a dead giveaway for another hunter. You know what I mean? Um, there's probably going to be somebody else hunting there. If somebody else has access to the property, I would, try to get where guys aren't going to go, and is what I'm really trying to say. But field edge, I guarantee you, I can probably walk to a bunch of properties around here where there's cornfields, and I'm going to find tree stands on the edges. Guys can be lazy sometimes. They don't want to go deep. They don't want to climb the hills. They just want to walk in through a field and set up on the edge. And you got to adjust. You got to go where they are, and that's how you're going to be successful. If you stick with the norm and stay where everybody else is, not going to get through this.
Yeah, thanks for that. We just had a little technical breakout. Can you hear me okay, Jason?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
So yeah, I can hear you now. I don't, must have been a cloud go over or something. But anyway, let's talk about Sitka gear. And what I'd like to start off with, I get emails or texts all the time, and people say, Bruce, I'm interested in being on a pro staff. I want to be field staff. I want to be an ambassador. How do I do that? So let's talk about your experience in getting on Sitka deer, whitetail ambassador.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to, maybe want to touch on, you mentioned about how do I get on a pro staff, and one thing that people really don't realize is a pro staff doesn't make you pro. A pro staff, in my opinion, is promotional. That company is using you as a promotional tool. It doesn't make you pro, and it doesn't really entitle you to free stuff. There's a lot of people on staffs out there, but um, a lot of people earn that. They put a lot of years into the industry, doing a lot of different things. You know, Granted, there's guys out there that shoot bigger bucks than me every year, but I've worked hard to get to this point, and uh, you know, it, I guess you got to look at it as you're a tool to that company, and you know, just because you shoot big bucks doesn't uh, make you. That's what I'm trying to say is it doesn't just because you shoot big bucks doesn't mean that that you should automatically be pro. There's a lot more that goes into being a pro staff than just shooting stuff. It's about promoting the gear and promoting the items and being knowledgeable and being able to sell product. There's a lot of things that go on there.
So let's talk about your journey as much as you want to share, from having a deer attracting company into what you're doing right now with Sitka.
Yeah, I had the deer company for a while. I had that for about 8 years. We took a company in southwestern PA here that was really selling almost in one county, and we used the grassroots approach, word of mouth, and we grew it to selling in 8 states across the U.S. We had a 40-man staff, pro staff, field staff that we had that we used to sell product throughout. They would go out into the field. They would you know, approach dealers and see if they would want to carry our product. And that worked really well for us. And, it's something we decided to get out of a few years back, spend more time with family and more time to hunt. But, over that time frame, I got to talk to a lot of people and made a lot of great connections in the industry and, started using Sitka gear and, heard that they were coming out with an ambassador team and thought I would apply. And, I went through this big interview process and, it worked out for me and it's been great. I do a lot of shows. I'm helping promote the product. I've tested some new product, which has been really fun. Get to provide input back on the product. What would I change? What was wrong with it? Things like that. And those are the things that I really enjoy. So, I really enjoy it. It's a great product, and I really like representing a brand that I believe in that stands behind their product.
Let's talk about their gear because let's break it down into how I hunt. I hunt early season, so in Wisconsin that's September, and it could be 80 degrees or not. Okay, then all of a sudden the transition happens, some cold fronts come through, and all of a sudden it's a little chillier in the morning. It can get 60, 70 during the day, and then it gets chilly at night, and then all of a sudden it stays chilly all day, and then we got November and it could be snow, rain, sleet, hail, or brilliant sunshine. So how does Sitka gear match the seasons?
You know, one thing that's really great about all the gear, every gear has a purpose. Every piece of clothing has a purpose, and it has a function. And the foundation behind Sitka gear is really layering. So, on a day like, early October, you're looking at, it can be 35 degrees in the morning, and then by 4 o'clock, it's 75. We have core lightweight base layers that wick away moisture. We have midweight insulation layers, outer layers. We offer technologies such as Windstopper, which is really huge because it's going to keep that wind from pulling the heat away from your body. And you want that core of your body to stay warm, because if you keep that wind off and keep that core heat, you're going to stay warmer longer. We have Primaloft insulation, which is a low bulk insulation that will keep you warm even when wet. We have, everybody knows what Gore-Tex is. And we also have something we came out with a couple years ago called Polygene, which is um, it's a silver salt treatment in the clothing, the base layers of your clothing, that is going to kill any bacteria growth that causes odor, not only against your skin but in the garment. So your garment is not going to it's not going to build up an odor. So really, you don't have to wash it as much, after you break a slight sweat or whatever. But like I said, the layering is the key. It's the foundation. On a day like that, where it's 35 in the morning, and 75, I would wear my core lightweight layers, and I would wear a midweight outer layer, a jacket, maybe some bibs. And as the day warms, I can take those layers off and where I'm comfortable again.
And it's important, folks, to be comfortable because in our crew, I'm fanatic about all day sits. I'll get in the right place. I've got a number of tree stands set up, and I'll hunt the tree stands. And we just lost Jason. Hey, sorry, folks, we just had a technical, there's a little thunderstorm going on in the southwest PA. So technology being what it is, hey, we're back in the tree stand, and I was talking about the different setups I have, and depending on the time of day and the time of year. But even with your gear, keep separate bins. What I found out, the best thing I've had is just keep separate bins, play the weather, and just be prepared, for that bin and mark them with big black letters so you know what it is. You don't grab the wrong bin in the morning because I don't get dressed in my clothes until I'm out of the truck and I'm ready to go hunting. Do you do that also?
Uh, I do. In some cases, not all the time. Sometimes if I'm in a quick hunt, I'll just jump in the truck. I'm very confident about my set control, and how I hunt my stands and things like that. But in most cases, I don't.
Because I know some guys that are fanatics about it. The only thing when it starts getting down below 40, it's hard. It's downright cold. But we found that it works better. It works better. So that's just the tip from Bruce. You take it as you want, and because deer are so smart, mature bucks, and that's what we're talking about on the show, are just so smart that they sense you. They don't even have to see you, but they know something's happening. And we always talk about being if somebody walked into your house and changed all the furniture around when you came home from work or school, you know something changed. And that's what we do when we cut and we hinge cut or we put a stand up and cut some some shooting lanes. Something's changed, and they see it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they see everything. If you're going to do any type of cutting or anything like that, do it long before season. Try to hang your stands.
Hey, folks. Again, we're having some thunderstorms in southwestern PA, and so we're having some breaks, and I'm going to try my best to edit it out. So, having said that, let's just since we can see each other right now, let's give you a couple of minutes to get some shout outs, and then we're just going to wrap the show.
Sounds good, Bruce. Yeah, if you everybody gets a chance, go out to sikagear.com, check out the webpage, check out some of the gear that we have, whitetail line, big game, our waterfowl line. This year we just came out with our women's lines, which is really huge. The women have been asking for that for a while, and this clothing has been designed by women for women, so it's not men's gear shrunk down. These particular pieces of clothing are made to fit women. So definitely go out and check that out. If you get an opportunity, go to Prime Archery, go to your local shop, shoot the Synergy, one of the Synergy bows that they have. Great bow, innovative riser where they move the handle to the center of the bow. Very accurate shooting bow. If you get a chance, check out Covert Trail Cams and Loophole Optics. All these companies are companies right here in the U.S., and they all stand by their product and make one heck of a great product. I think everybody would be satisfied.
Thanks so much, Jason Mears, for joining us today as a featured guest on the new video series from Whitetail Rendezvous. So on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, last weekend, Memorial Day weekend, we had 140,000 downloads. So I must be doing something right.
Thanks for having me on, Bruce.
You're welcome. On the next episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, we're heading out to Iowa, land of the giants, and we're going to connect with Hunter Brunk. Now, Hunter has a YouTube channel that's just off the charts. Reach for your peak. That's the name of it. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. So remember that, and we'll be talking about that on a show coming up next.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.